Hello, this is Matt with Modern School Bus, and in this video I'm going to show you how to use the XLOOKUP function in Excel. This function is the newest lookup function that is meant to replace older functions like VLOOKUP, HLOOKUP, or index match. I'm going to show you 8 different examples of how you can use this function, and by the end of this video you will be a master with the XLOOKUP function. So we are going to start using a basic lookup with the XLOOKUP function, and then we are going to work our way into some more advanced options. So for our first example, what I have here is these products, and what I want to do is return sales for the month of April. Now when doing an XLOOKUP, you can look up within the same sheet, you can look up on a different sheet, or you can look up in a different workbook entirely. In this example, I have my data on this other sheet here, and this is where I want to do my lookup. So what I'm going to do is come back over here. I'm going to select this cell, and I'm going to type equals on my keyboard. Then I'm going to type XLOOKUP and press tab to enter the function. So the first argument of this function is the lookup value, and so this is what I am looking up. Then I'm going to do a comma, and the next argument is the lookup array. So what I want to do is look up this value in this column. So I'm just going to click this column header at the top, and then a comma, and then the next argument is the return array. So what I want to return is sales for the month of April. So then I'm going to select this column, and then I'm going to close out my formula and press enter on my keyboard. So this equals 669. So let's just go back to my data, Red Sox, April, and you can see it did pull the correct value. So then what I can do is copy this and paste this down to pull the data for these other options. And that is how to use the basic XLOOKUP function. Okay, I'm going to pause the lesson really quick and let you know about my free course. If you are a beginner at Excel or Google Sheets, I have a free course with the 9 most fundamental lessons that you need to master. Click the link in the description of the video to get the course now. So in this next example, I'm going to do the same XLOOKUP function, but this time one of these products does not exist in this table. So we are going to get an error. So I'm going to do equals XLOOKUP, and we are looking up this value in this column, and when we find our matching value, we want to return this column. So then I'm going to close this out and press enter, and you can see this one is not found, so it returns an NA error. One of the benefits of the XLOOKUP function over earlier lookup functions is that it has built-in options for how you want to handle these errors. So if I continue on with this formula, you can specify what you want to return if your value is not found. So maybe if there is a value not found, what I want to return is no such product. So I'm going to put that in quotations as this if not found argument. So then what I'm going to do is press enter and copy and paste this down, and you can see for this one we have specified that this is what we want to return if we get that error. So in previous lookup functions, you had to wrap your formula in an if error to return a value like this, and so this is one of the benefits of XLOOKUP, is that this is actually built into the function. So in the next example, we are going to return multiple columns. So in the previous examples, I was just returning one column, but we can actually use this function and return multiple, and it works pretty much the same way. So I'm going to do equals XLOOKUP. We're looking up this value, and we want to find this matching value in this column. And so what I want to return is April, May, and June. So I'm actually going to select all 3 of these columns and close out this formula. And as you can see, this now returns multiple columns. In this next example, I'm going to show you how to use the XLOOKUP function with multiple criteria. So in this example, I have these products, and I have 2 different versions. I have version 1 of the product, and I have version 2 of the product. And so what we're going to do is use XLOOKUP with multiple criteria to pull each of these versions into this column. So to do an XLOOKUP with multiple criteria, what you need to do is use the AND symbol. So what I'm going to do is select this cell, equals XLOOKUP, and then what we want to do is look up this value, and then I'm going to do the AND symbol, and we're going to put in the cell of our second value. So I'm looking up this and this. Then what I want to do is in my lookup array, I want to do the same thing. So I'm looking up this, and then I'm going to do the AND symbol, and I'm looking up this column. And then I am returning the month of April, so I'm going to select that column and then close out my formula and copy and paste this down. And that is how to use XLOOKUP with multiple criteria. In this next example, we are going to look at how to use XLOOKUP with a partial match. So what I have here is I have sales for different sales reps, and what I want to do is do a lookup where all I have here is the last name. So what I'm going to do is set up our lookup function equals XLOOKUP, and I'm looking up the value in cell A2 in this column, and what I want to return is this column. And this is not going to work because this doesn't actually exist here in this column. What I need to do is actually edit my lookup function to accept a partial match. So what we're going to do is edit our formula and include a wildcard symbol into this function. So I need to edit this first argument, and the wildcard character that we're going to use is the asterisk symbol. So in quotations, I'm going to add an asterisk and then the AND symbol. So the asterisk is a wildcard character that stands for any character and any number of characters. So when I add this on to the beginning of my cell reference, it will do the lookup as long as there is anything in the beginning of this value. And so depending on what you're looking up, you can add the wildcard character before or after your cell reference, or you can include it in both places. Now this isn't going to work by itself. We need to do one more edit. What we need to do is change this match mode to accept wildcard characters. So what I'm going to do is do 2 commas because I don't need to edit a value if not found. What I want to do is be in this match mode argument. And so we're going to select wildcard character match, which is 2. And then I'm going to close out this formula and copy and paste this down, and that is how to do XLOOKUP with a partial match instead of an exact match. So in this next example, we are going to look at how to do a horizontal lookup with XLOOKUP. So previously we were doing a vertical lookup, but this time I have my data horizontally. So you can actually still use XLOOKUP to do a horizontal lookup. So what I'm going to do is type my function here equals XLOOKUP, and then my lookup value is this cell. And for my lookup array, instead of selecting the column, I'm going to select the row. And then for my return array, I'm going to select the row that I want to return. Now what we need to do for this formula to work properly when I copy and paste this down is we need to lock our cell references in place, because every cell that I move down, my lookup values will also move down a cell where I'm looking it up. So you can see we start in row 1 and then row 2 for the second argument, and then in my second function it's now moved to 2 and 3 and to 3 and 4. So we actually want to stay in these rows, so I'm going to type F4 on my keyboard at the end of each of these arguments to lock these cell references in place. Then when I copy and paste this down, then it will work how I want it to. So that is how to do a horizontal lookup with XLOOKUP. So in this next example, I'm going to show you how to use XLOOKUP with an approximate match. So in this example, I have the sales reps and the sales that each of the reps have achieved, and what we want to do is apply a bonus depending on their sales. So what I'm going to do is actually do an XLOOKUP looking up this value in this column, and then we are going to return this column, so the bonus. Now the problem is this isn't an exact match, but what we're going to do is set up an approximate match so that we can return the appropriate bonus. So this might sound a little bit confusing, but it will all make sense in 1 second once I set up the formula. So I'm just going to set up the basic XLOOKUP function. XLOOKUP, we're looking up this value in this column, and we want to return this column. Now we know that this is not going to work, but what we can do now is edit our function to accept an approximate match. So for this next argument, I want to skip it. So the value if not found, so I'm just going to add 2 commas to skip that value. What I want to do is edit match mode. So what I want to do is exact match or next smaller item. So I'm going to click that. So that is -1. And then when I copy and paste this down, this will find the appropriate bonus level for each of these values. Now the reason this works is because what this search is doing is, if we go back to this, it's exact match or next smaller item. So what it's doing is it's looking for this value, but if it doesn't find it, it's defaulting to the next smallest value. So since this is 34,000, it would actually exist in between here. So it's returning the value for the next smallest value, which is 1,000. And then for these, it's doing the same. So it would actually be between these 2 values. So it's returning the next smallest. So that is a useful way that you can use XLOOKUP with an approximate match mode. So in our last example, what we are going to do is a two-way lookup. And usually when you are doing a two-way lookup, what you want is a dynamic lookup function. So what I'm first going to do is add some data validation from our table here so that we can actually change our lookup values for both product and month. So what I'm going to do is come back over here, and we're going to add some data validation in so that we can make these dynamic options that we can select. So what I'm going to do first is select this cell. You're going to want to be under data, and then I'm going to go to data validation, and we're going to allow a list, and for our source we're just going to select the options here. So then I'm going to press OK, and now this is a drop down where I can select which value I'm looking up. Now I want to do the same for the month. So I'm going to select this cell. We're going to go to data validation, allow a list, and for our source, we are going to select these month options. Then I'm going to press OK, and now I can select which month I want to look up. So I'll just leave it on March, and now we can start our lookup function. So what we can do now is set up our two-way lookup function. So what I'm going to do is type this cell equals XLOOKUP, and so I am looking up this value, and I'm looking it up here. Now what I need to do is add in my second XLOOKUP. So XLOOKUP, and what I'm looking up now is actually this value, and so I am looking that up here. And what I want to return is this array. So then I'm going to close out this formula, and now I have my two-way lookup created, and this is dynamic. So what I can do is I can actually change the month or the product, and since this is dynamic, the return value will change as I select each of these options. So that is one of the benefits of using a two-way XLOOKUP. So that is it for this video. We have covered a lot of different examples of how to use the XLOOKUP function. So now you should have a very strong understanding of this function and a lot of the options that you have with this. So thank you for watching. As always, if you have any questions, just let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching the video. If you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button. I'm also going to place a link in the description of the video where you can subscribe to my email newsletter to get free updates and lessons sent straight to your email. Let me know if you have any questions or comments.